Well, good afternoon. You've just had the most amazing 2 days, is that true? Yeah, and you know what? For the last 2 days, how many of you have given yourself complete permission to be here? Most of you. Because you see, I've got a little secret. I've been watching who's been multitasking. And I'm going to tell you that it's a really important thing. Because multitasking is a complete and utter myth. Now, there's a whole lot of you who've spent most of your life saying, I'm really good at multitasking, or I'm not very good at multitasking. So whatever story you've been telling yourself, this afternoon we're going to look at how you need to rewrite that. Because there's actually no such thing as multitasking. Instead, what we have is microtasking. And microtasking is just tiring. So if you've ever finished a day and felt like your brain is like cotton wool, anybody had that? Uh-huh. All those times when you think to yourself, now where was I up to again? Right? So the constant interruption. Or those moments when you think to yourself, I went to bed, I thought I got a great night's sleep, and I've woken up and my head's just a little bit foggy, right? So all of those things, I can assure you, come from multitasking. So what we see is that often we say things like, a goldfish only concentrates for 9 seconds. I don't know about you, but I've got a 12-year-old, and sometimes when she doesn't concentrate very well, I say to her, what are you, a goldfish? And she looks at me and she says, Mum. And I go, are you a goldfish? And she goes, Mum. And I go, no, you're not, because you know what? You're doing less than 9 seconds. Now, here's the interesting thing. I'm going to ask you to take up Greg's challenge. Do you remember this afternoon when Greg talked about life hacks and he said, you know, you've just got to try one new thing? So I'm going to ask you, and by the way, I can see if you use your phones. I just need to tell you that. So everybody tells you they can't see you from here, but I can see if you use your phones because it's a thing called glow facing. Right? Now, in my world, we have a rule in our house which is no glow facing in the car. Right? So if I'm driving along and any of the kids, you know, do this with their mobile device, I go, glow facing, and they go. Right. So even when they get in the car, my daughter often say, Mum says no glow facing, you can't glow face and talk, right? So no glow facing. Just for the next less than 10 minutes, commit to be doing just the thing you came here to do, which was to be at Wired for Wonder. So how many of you does your day look like this? Right? You start out, you get to your desk, you think, I'll just check what's going on. Oh, good, I've got to send an email as well. Oh, while I'm doing that, I must remember there's something to do with the kids, something the family needs. Don't let that go astray. And oh, that's right, there's a meeting to go to, right? Because I'm terribly busy, terribly important, so many things to get to. And then, of course, I'm sitting at those meetings, and while I'm sitting at those meetings, I know what happens is your brain goes off into the little bit of boredom land. And as it goes off a little bit of boredom land, because as human beings we're not very good with boredom, you go, I'll just check my phone. Right? Oh, maybe there's an email, or maybe there's a message. Oh, what's happening on my Facebook app? Oh, what about my Insta, my Twitter, anything else I can distract myself with? Oh, Angry Birds, that might help. Oh, and then somebody says, and what do you think? And you go, oh, sorry? Yeah, can you just recap that for me? Because you don't want to look like you weren't really paying attention. And then, of course, there is the dreaded phone, right? Now, I'm going to ask you to think about something really important. Because if you are a person who's constantly checking your phone, right, here's some really bad news. It's increasing your anxiety. Now, here we are, a nation where mental health is becoming a huge issue. And we know that checking your phone, the scrolling, right, is increasing your anxiety. We also know that what happens is that often people check their phone because it makes them feel busy. Remember Fiona said today about standing in the coffee queue and actually talking to somebody, or even just allowing yourself to drift off and dream. Because while you're busy doing something, you actually don't have the space to be innovative and creative. You don't have the space to settle down all those synapses, neurosystems that are just on hyperdrive as they're trying to process things. Because we can't actually do two things at once. What you can do is start one and then quickly flick to the other one, and quickly flick back. And then you get home and you get in the car and you go, oh, hang on. And you've just got to calm yourself back down. And if you've ever been trying to do something and somebody's interrupted you and you're really deep in thought and you go, oh, hang on. Right? That's actually what you're constantly doing when you're multitasking. It's just that if you do it enough, you don't notice when you're switching. So the problem with multitasking is you're actually microtasking and you're wearing yourself out. So if a goldfish concentrates for 9 seconds, remember I said to my daughter, no, you're not a goldfish because you're not making 9 seconds. Here's the bad news. The data suggests we're only doing 8. Frightening. Why is it frightening? Because in 8 seconds you can't do anything that's creative. You can't have that innovative thinking. And that innovative thinking is often the thing that we have, as has already been suggested over the last 2 days, when we're actually just in that moment, you know, when that comment about I'll think about it, I'll sleep on it, never has a truer word been said. Because while you're sleeping on it, while you're not actually concentrating on it like this, while you're not being distracted by 5 different things, what happens is that your mind starts to go into its deep subconscious and unconscious thinking. And it starts to join different things together, and that's where we become our most creative. So if the data's telling us it's only 8 seconds, even if you can concentrate for a minute or two, you're going to be better off. And as Dan Depani said, this is just a case of practice. When you notice yourself being distracted, bringing yourself back. What happens if you actually just turn your phone off? Because unless you're actually waiting on something absolutely urgent, and I'm going to tell you this now, if something urgent happens, somebody will find you. You will be surprised. They will come and seek you out. So you don't need to worry about whether or not you're going to be found if something urgent is needed. Trust me, right? They will find you. So the data says 8 seconds. Here's the other interest. Oh, no, press the wrong button. In just 20 minutes, you can get into the flow state. So here's the thing. If your phone's supposed to be smart and you're supposed to be smarter than your phone, right? Try setting your timer for 20 minutes and saying, whatever I'm doing, I'm not going to stop for the next 20 minutes. Just try it just once. You'll be surprised how much you get done. You'll be surprised how your brain starts to fire, how your deep thinking comes out, and you'll find solutions you never thought were possible. You can be your most productive, creative, and innovative when this time sets in. We microtask, not multitask. And so here's the really frightening facts. I have a PhD. I just need to tell you that I can't afford to give up 10% of my IQ. I just want to tell you that, right? I need every single ounce of it to do what I do every day. But when you're multitasking or microtasking, you're decreasing your IQ by 10%. So if you can afford to give up 10%, I want to come meet you. Okay? I want to understand how. Here's the next thing. The impact that it has is the equivalent to swigging a full bottle of wine, like and then walking into the meeting and expecting to do something fabulous. Okay, now I just want to point out that some of you may actually be able to do that. Again, can I meet you? Can you talk to me about how you do that? Because I can't, right? I will often, people will say to me, let's have a glass of wine over lunch. I go, oh no, really, I need everything I've got here. The other impact is that it's the equivalent to having lost a full night's sleep. And while we've learnt today that we could go a full 10 days without sleep, I know that anybody here who's a parent who's ever lost a few hours, you feel a bit punch drunk, right? And then somebody says to you, how about this? And you go, sorry, can you just go back on that for me again? So you can't really afford to be multitasking because you may as well have just lost a whole night's sleep. And trust me, if you're going to lose a whole night's sleep, please go do something fabulous with it. right? It's not about being at work, right? You should be out, partying, enjoying it, listening to great music, seeing something fantastic, okay? What also happens during this time is we reach inattention blindness, and inattention blindness is the most dangerous thing because that's when you don't see the child on the side of the street whose skateboard flicks out in front of you. It's when you don't see the other small detail that's going to make a difference. It gives you a reduction in your working memory, which is why what happens is all of a sudden you say to yourself, well, what was I supposed to do again? And it gives you the inability to think critically. And what we need most in the world right now are critical thinkers, not the rote thinking, not that times table learning that you learnt when you were 6. You know, what is it? 6 is 36, yep. We need to think critically. We need to think in a different way. And it can make you fat, right? So here's the really big news, because it actually releases a thing called cortisol. And so if you're trying to lose weight, quit multitasking, you'll be a whole lot better off. So the other thing that comes with this is that you've got to understand that we've got habits, and habits are really good and they're also not so good because habits reduce cognitive load. So it's really handy. Trust me, if you had to make a decision for every habit that you had in the day, you'd be making over 35,000 choices a day. So trust me, habits are useful. However, while they free up space for us to be able to think and they make it really easier for us to function, it means we can act mindlessly. So here's the other thing. Go home tonight, get a chocolate and eat it as slowly as possible, right? The prize is for how long it takes, right? Once you've got that, there's good news. You've got power over all of this. So make sure that you're starting to take control of your habits. You need to commit to doing just one thing for 20 minutes. And you're going to be so much better off because all of a sudden you're going to be in the flow state. You're going to be creative, innovative. You'll start enjoying your food. You'll lose weight without having to do absolutely anything else. That's the bargain, right? And you can actually be the master of technology rather than the servant to it. So over the next 14 days, we're going to run a Twitter challenge. So if you want to come and follow me at LYNN GRIBBLE, we're going to be doing just one thing. We're going to be looking at how we can actually get better at the power of just one thing now. Thanks so much.